Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you could join us for today's webinar, the AssetWatch Experience Unpacked, How We Deliver More Than Monitoring. I'm Aubrey Meadows, Community and Events Manager here at AssetWatch, and I'll be kicking things off before handing it over to our presenters. Let's start with a few quick housekeeping notes. First, please drop your questions in the comments box anytime. We'll do our best to get to as many as possible at the end of the presentation. If we don't get to your question in the live, we'll follow up with you after. Additionally, a recording of today's session will be shared so you can revisit any of the insights or share them with your team. So, why does this conversation matter? It's because reliability and maintenance programs don't exist in a vacuum. They're connected to the bigger picture of operations, performance, and even sustainability. When you bring maintenance into that conversation, it drives better outcomes across the board, from uptime to energy efficiency to ESG reporting. But to make that happen, you need buy-in from operators, leadership, and even cross-functional partners. Sharing wins often, up, down, and laterally, is key to building trust and showing the value of a proactive maintenance culture. At AssetWatch, we're here to extend your team, not replace it. Our goal is to make predictable maintenance simple to adopt and easy to scale, helping you move beyond monitoring to a program that's reliable, sustainable, and built for long-term success. When you have the big picture, you not only get buy-in, but a more successful program. I'm excited to dive into these topics today, including how to get that buy-in, the importance of criticality, and pain points we see from different perspectives within AssetWatch, as well as how they've seen these pain points solved. Let's kick it over to our speakers to tell us a little more about themselves and their roles here at AssetWatch. Rob, I'll hand it to you first.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Coleman. I've been doing reliability for about 16, 17 years. Hold a lot of certifications, vibration category 3, ICML, oil analysis category 2, infrared thermography, airborne ultrasound, ARPL was most recent one. I'm a former CMRP. So my role and my team is more or less an extension of your guys' team. So whenever the data comes through AI, we look at it and give you guys prescriptive recommendations on what to do. And we always have our phone numbers. And we're, like I said, we're a part of your guys' team. You guys utilize us.
Hey everyone, my name is Garrett Coleman. I am a customer success team lead here at AssetWatch. I've been in the reliability space for almost 3 years, which is the same time that I've been at AssetWatch. Prior to AssetWatch, I was in the healthcare and social care IT world. So I've been in consulting and customer success for about the last 10 years. Earlier this year, I got the chance to go get my Category 1 vibration training, so that way I could deepen my knowledge of the reliability space and really start to understand some of the vibrations similar to what our condition monitoring engineering team does. And I now manage a team of customer success managers. So we're responsible for the success of the customer, making sure that the customers are realizing value and making sure that we're aligning with their goals to deliver on business outcomes and ultimately prevent unplanned downtime for them. And I'll toss it over to Justin for his intro.
Hey everyone, my name is Justin Dosser. I've been with AssetWatch here for about 2.5 years now. Prior to this, I spent early part of my career in the oil and gas industry, engineering, project management, as well as manufacturing. Spent some time in the SCADA software industry, as well as kind of data collection solutions, big data solutions as well. I'm a solutions architect here at AssetWatch, so I spent a lot of my time handling a lot of the front end conversations with the customers, helping them understand their pain points, challenges that they face within their industry and their facilities, and just help bridge that gap with the AssetWatch program.
Thanks, Justin. If you can answer the first question we've got here, let's start at the beginning. When you're seeing manufacturers start their reliability journey, what are the most common roadblocks or mistakes that you're seeing happen?
Yeah, I'd say one of the most common ones is that customers tend to think that they're just too immature in their maintenance process or just not quite ready to take on a predictive maintenance system. I think this often stems from people think that these predictive maintenance systems are the way that they were back in the days of old, where you have to purchase all of this equipment, all this hardware, install all of this hardware, maintain it, and then inevitably replace it whenever it comes up for that replacement, whenever it gets damaged or obsolete. And that's just on the hardware side. They also have to think about training analysts to decipher that data, make sure that they retain those analysts and not lose them to staff turnover and things like that. And the reality is that AssetWatch has really taken that proven vibration technology and predictive maintenance technologies and really relieved the customer from all of those challenges that I just mentioned that come with it. So what AssetWatch has done is really packaged up that solution, is able to enable it to be hand delivered to the customer really in a matter of just 1 to 2 days in most cases. And the customer can really be hands off from all of that burden and really have be able to just receive their maintenance recommendations from a certified expert who's looking at their data in a week. They will go from literally a preventative or run to failure type of approach all the way to a predictive maintenance program.
Garrett, what about you?
I think for me, early on, what I see probably the biggest stumbling block or roadblock is just true ownership of the program. So we may have someone that starts and they say, okay, we need these 10 people added to the software, but then no one's really commenting back to the alerts from the engineers, and it turns out that maybe it only really needs to be one person. Like the other people, some people need to view it, but somebody really needs to take ownership of that, because those comments and that communication back and forth between us and between the customers is important to making sure that the equipment can be addressed adequately, and then making sure that that alerts are getting resolved out in a timely manner. Or maybe in some cases there does need to be multiple owners, but maybe we need to assign them ownership by their specific area of the plant. We've seen before where people may get tuned out because they're getting alerts that don't pertain to them, so they get alert fatigue. Whereas if we fine tune that and assign them responsibility by the line that they're over, then they only get alerts about that, and then it becomes more ownership over their specific area because they know that the alerts that they're getting actually matter to them.
That's great. Rob, what are you seeing on the CME team?
For roadblocks, I would have to say finding criticality analysis and making sure that everybody is monitoring their correct equipment in the correct facility at the correct time. So making sure that you're not monitoring a $500 motor versus a $10,000 motor unless it affects the process.
That actually brings us to our next section. Rob, can you talk us through how your team helps maintenance teams decide which assets to monitor first?
Sure. So what does criticality come from? The criticality analysis is when you evaluate your equipment based on operational importance and impact of failures. This is important to prioritize maintenance resources, focus efforts, and enhancing decision making. And this is the first step in optimizing your reliability program. Another version of criticality analysis you may be familiar with is FMEA, or failure modes and effects analysis. So going a little deeper into that, with FMEAs, almost every major company has done an FMEA. Can you guys do the poll here? So have you used FMEA criticality analysis in the past? So a lot of times if the company's or the plant is older, that may be lost or not being known it's out there. If you guys had that makes it very easy to identify what equipment we need to be monitoring based on criticality, lead times for parts, different things like that. So steps to criticality analysis is identify. So list all assets and their functions in their production process. Ensure your recovery factors like location of your facility, redundancy. Is there a single point of failure, etc.? So evaluate assess the risks associated with the failure of each asset. Consider factors like safety, hazards, production downtime, repair, replacement cost, and impact on product quality. And finally, prioritize. Rank assets based on their criticality score. This score helps determine the focus of maintenance efforts. Utilize your ranking to groups tier 1, 2, or 3 criticality. There's some more. So other factors to consider for analysis is safety impact. Potential risk to employee safety and environmental compliance. Production impacts, consequences, and product capacity and scheduling. Repair replacement costs, financial implications of maintenance and replacing the asset, and failure probability, likelihood of assets based on historical manufacturer information. And don't forget to ask questions like what equipment failures could be a safety concern, what equipment could shut down the most critical operations if it fails, what equipment is expensive to repair or has a long lead time for repair, what equipment is difficult to get to or remote, what failure modes does the equipment have, and the technology can pinpoint the failures before this happens. Each industry has additional key points to consider. This here is an example of a criticality analysis worksheet. So, you know, machine name, type, safety impact, production impact. You can add the scores in and then use a pivot table to generate what you guys need to see. And here's another example of criticality analysis and what it could look like for you guys. So, like I said before, you got your tiers. So, and then, yeah.
Rob, can you share an example where focusing on criticality saved a site time and budget compared to monitoring everything at once?
Yeah. So, is this the one with the, yeah. So this one here is a good example. I had a facility with 16 furnace fans, and we only focused on the furnace fans themselves. They run very hot, and in this particular case here, we can't shut down the production until it all cools down. Otherwise, it ruins the entire load. So we were able to on this particular one. This is why we use this for example is run to failure to see what it would take. So at the beginning, the defect was seen at that point in the trend, and you'll see the end of usable life at the top of the trend. And it starts to trend down right before catastrophic failure happens, and you'll see catastrophic failure when that happens at this particular site. When the fan shuts down, it lets the fire come up out of the exhaust, and it burns up the fan and our sensors. So that's why you see the sensor actually go down. Another case we had, then like I wanted to reiterate the extension of your guys' team is we had a discussion with a customer. They're called data review calls. We do them monthly, bi-monthly, depends on the sensor load and the needs of the customer. But so I got on a call, and the corporate contact got on, and he asked me to stay on after the call, and he wanted to talk about why his motors are failing prematurely. So we did some deep diving on it, and it come to find out that they use a different lubrication because the company they own is bought into this lubrication program as well. It turns out that they are using a lithium-based grease to grease their motors and a polyurethane-based grease motor, and they were destroying their bearings that way. So they're very happy to track that down.
That's great, Rob. We've covered how to prioritize which assets are the most critical, so let's dive into how to gain buy-in. Can you guys share some early wins that you've seen maintenance teams highlight to leadership to show that value early and help solidify buy-in? Justin, could you take that first? Justin, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. This is actually an early win both for the customer, and I was actually pretty new to AssetWatch, so I made a big believer of me as well. But one of our new customers, they were utilizing one of our free trials that we'd offer, and they were a little bit unsure of the technology in the program. But within the first week, we had called out somewhere between 5, 6, 7 various equipment issues. One of them happened to be on a belt-driven fan, in which we saw exactly what it was. It was both structural looseness as well as some rotating looseness caused from buildup. So our analyst had recommended, take a look at the hold down bolts, look for broken welds, clean up those fan blades. Every single one of those things was found to be true by the maintenance team. There was loose bolts, cracked welds, fan blades had buildup all over them. So it ended up saving the customer about 6 hours of downtime, which was about a $40,000 impact to their business. So within 1 week, not only had they become big believers in what we do by being so accurate by that maintenance recommendation, but we had also delivered them a save. That one save alone was greater than their annual contract with AssetWatch for an entire year. And that was just one of the 6 or 7 catches that we had really in those first days. So that was a big win for them immediately. And they essentially took that, win, they took that information and spread it corporate wide. And within the next few months, all 3 or 4 plants within their organization had AssetWatch installed. So quick buy-in from the plant. spread quickly throughout the organization.
That's awesome. Garrett, are you seeing any stories like this on the customer success side?
Yeah, actually last March, I guess this past March, I had the opportunity to go to Iowa to a facility. It was a logo that I was already working with, and this was a new facility that was getting launched. And with being in Kansas City, I thought it's only a few hour drive. I'll just go to the facility and be there when our ART is installing out in the field and get a facility tour. And they were happy to have me come up, and I got to do a tour, check out the facility, and asked a lot of questions during the visit. And then we sat down together and actually went through an onboarding together. So typically we would do an onboarding with a customer remotely after the sensors are installed. But since I was already on site, I was able to walk them through the software, got a lot of good engagement in the room. And then they told me how excited that they were that myself and then also one of my employees came out to that visit as well. How excited they were that we came out and actually showed interest in what they're doing in the facility and asked questions about their process, how certain things are impacted, what's the downtime caused by certain events. If one thing happens, what's the impact downstream? They said when a lot of people come out to the facility, they just kind of come do a walk around, check it out and leave, but don't really, show any investment in what they were doing. So they appreciated that kind of hands-on approach. And then being able to have us really show them what the process was going to look like before our technician got out there, and then the install went smoothly. And that created a lot of early buy-in from that team. And then on the flip side, to Justin's point, we've been able to secure wins remotely early on in the process, which helps separate us. I have a customer down in Texas where they had some slow speed applications, and that was one of the big things that they were looking for, was a company that could handle some of their slow speed applications. And that actually helped us win a facility over a competitor that wasn't able to identify some of the issues that we found. So we were able to find those within the first couple of weeks. And from there, the facility just continued to expand.
That's great. Garrett, what's the best way to get frontline operators engaged in a predictive maintenance program?
Yeah, I think the best way is to help them understand how it impacts their lives. So when I came over from the healthcare IT world, I was a little apprehensive at first because I didn't know much about the world of reliability, and I didn't know the problem that I was solving. And then now, after getting out to more facilities and meeting more of our customers, I realized that we're not only solving problems for the facility as far as saving them money from their maintenance budget and making sure that they don't have catastrophic failures that can be caught in time, but we're also saving those operators. I was at a customer back in July, and they were telling me how one of their machines went down. And because of how this facility operates, the operators also do a lot of the maintenance. And so they ended up being at work from 4 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock the next morning, went home, showered up, ate some food, and then we're right back at the plant at 4 o'clock the next morning. So if we can get these people in the plants ahead of issues before they become issues, then maybe that guy isn't working almost 24 hours one day and he has more time at home with his family. So getting them to understand that impact of how it can not only help them professionally, but also personally.
That's great. And have you seen any ESG reporting help strengthen maintenance buy-in?
Yeah, I think we're starting to lean that way. I was actually talking to another customer a couple of weeks ago where he said that they're starting to use that stuff, but what will really help them is if they're able to quantify the CO2 saved and the kilowatt hours per saved, if they can quantify that in amount of trees saved, because that's something that they can then go market to their customers about how what they're doing with their maintenance team is having a real world impact on saving trees.
Yeah, that would be an incredible visual, right?
Yeah.
What role does continuous training or upskilling play in keeping reliability programs alive?
Yeah, I think the more that people are consistently and correctly using a program, the better the program will be. And here at AssetWatch, we're continuously improving the software. I think in the last since February, we've probably had 6 or 7 different software releases that have changed how the user interacts with the interface. So I think continuing to train on how to best utilize the software to make sure that you're getting all the benefits of that, but then also just making sure that you're continuing to train your maintenance teams. and taking advantage, of course, of things like this that kind of dive into the world of reliability, and other webinars that we host, but continuing to really learn more about the industry and of reliability, and just continually up leveling.
That's awesome. So I'm sure the best way to get and solidify buy-in is showing success in one site. Once that win occurs, what's the best way to share those wins with other facilities? Justin, could you take that first?
Auburn, did you want to pop that poll up?
Yeah, absolutely. Garrett, you want to talk about this for a second?
Yeah, so sorry, before we move into the next section, this poll is on a scale of 0 to 100%, how ready is your team to move into the predictive maintenance phase? And so that kind of goes with that upskilling that I was talking about. So as you think about these things and think about moving into the predictive space, what are the things that you're going to have to do with your team to make sure that they're able to take advantage of moving in that direction?
All right. You may go ahead and jump in, Auburn.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So question was around, what's the best way to share these wins across facilities? And it can really happen in a number of ways. So in the example that I shared earlier, that plant was very proud of the program that they had taken the time to initiate and to implement, and the success that they had. I mean, we were looking at like a 10x ROI within 6 months of being out there. So oftentimes plant will take it and take it on themselves and spread that word organically throughout the organizations, give themselves a big pat on the back, as they should. And conversely, some organizations, they have a plant that's on their own island, right? There's not much cross-plant collaboration within the organization, or people are just flat out too busy, right? In those cases, AssetWatch has a very good job and ecosystem of spreading those wins throughout the organization. So we oftentimes are engaged with operational excellence, continuous improvements. Obviously, regional type of operations managers love to hear these types of wins that they have. So we will share that success for you guys as well, and partner with you on that, and be sure to give the plant props. And then we also have corporate objective meetings that our customer success team has on a regular basis with the plants as well, so they can kind of talk with the leadership team about the success that they've been having at their site. So numerous ways to kind of skin that cat, but we can definitely get the word out of the success that we're having.
Justin, what challenges are you seeing come up with expanding predictive maintenance across multiple plants?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the main challenges is that, every plant tends to have, I'm not say every plant, but a lot of plants tend to believe that they are very different from every other plant within the organizations. And a lot of times that is true, but they believe they don't have the same type of equipment, same type of process. They're either more experienced or less experienced in their maintenance approaches, or they have very old or aged equipment, or their equipment is very new. And what kind of comes across in all of those situations is that AssetWatch is the right partner there, because we monitor all different types of equipment in numerous different industries, from new equipment to old equipment, every different equipment class as well. So through that deep industry experience, we can help alleviate some of those challenges. Another challenge is cost, right? So cost is always going to be a consideration, and each plant has their own budget. AssetWatch makes it very easy from a cost standpoint, from an OpEx approach to our commercial model, but also with scaled pricing at tiers. So essentially, the more sites, the more sensors that a customer logo has, the decrease in price from the per sensor standpoint is going to really help grow across the organization.
Thanks, Justin. Garrett, leadership attention can fade after that initial launch. How are you keeping programs top of mind and funded long-term? Garrett, you're on mute. Sorry.
I think the best way to do that is to celebrate the wins. Early on in the process, identify who those wins matter to, and then when the team is resolving issues and they're commenting back in the system, they're actually utilizing the software, we want to celebrate that. I mean, the company is paying for the software and for our CMEs and for all the services that come with that for a reason. So We want to celebrate when people are actually utilizing the software, and when they're, ultimately when they're saving the company money. When they go out and resolve a bearing issue that could have torn up, an expensive motor, or a gearbox. Like, we want to celebrate that and make sure that, not only that the plant level leadership knows, but also if there's, people in corporate that have eyes on the reliability program, we want to celebrate that. And then I think one of the things too is making sure that you get to know those leaders, find out what's important to them, so that way, as you're talking to their teams, you can be guiding them towards those KPIs and helping them hit their metrics, both internally with their company and with us.
That's great. What's the most underrated reliability practice that doesn't get enough attention but really makes a huge impact? Rob and Garrett, can you guys take this?
I'd say communication is key. Like I said before, we're essentially your guys' team. We should be communicating daily, internally and externally, to drive those wins and capture the ROI for the customer, for you guys.
Yeah, I definitely agree with communication. That I mentioned that before in one of my other answers, that back and forth is so important. But not only is communication externally with the customer important, communication internally is important as well. Knowing who to communicate with, and and how to communicate with them. Like, for example, Rob and I have had a lot of accounts together, and I know that the best way to reach Rob, especially if he's heads down reviewing data, is to shoot him a text message. So there's been times where I see an email from a customer and I'm like, hey, Rob needs to know about this immediately. So then I shoot him a text message, and he usually texts me back in a couple minutes, if that. So communication externally and internally is important. I also think clearly defining your what your ROI is. So whether that's cost savings, whether that's downtime, hours prevented, whether it's increased uptime or OEE, whatever that metric is, you want to clearly define that to make sure that both AssetWatch and the customer understands that. And then,
go ahead, Rob.
No,
I'll let you finish that. Okay, so the trend we showed earlier with the furnace fan, that particular customer only had 16 pieces of equipment being monitored, but we were able to show them $3 million of actual real world ROI in 9 months. Those kind of metrics makes our program successful and makes you guys successful the higher you go in your company. So we try to track those. The numbers doesn't really mean a lot to us. They mean it to you guys. So we want real world numbers.
That's great. Garrett, anything to add?
Yeah, I was just saying, I think the last thing is just, utilizing the tools that are in place, making sure that, if you have access to a tool, using it to the best of your ability. So like, we have a web version of the software and a mobile app. So making sure that you have the mobile app downloaded. That way, if Rob has something that he writes up, you immediately get a push notification on your phone versus having to wait till you're back at your desk to check your email, and then you see it. And then maybe it's something that, spiked up pretty rapidly, or maybe you're signed up for our AI anomaly alerts and you don't have the app downloaded. You're not going to see that as quickly as if you're waiting for it back on your computer. So I'd say utilizing all the tools that are available and really learning the capabilities, so that way you can use it to the best of your ability.
That's great. Before we open it up for some attendee questions, can each of you share your best first step for getting into condition monitoring, or your favorite piece of advice you'd share with even the most seasoned experts? Justin, can you go first?
Yeah, so my best piece of advice would be get started. It's like the saying, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and the second best time is today. Same thing with predictive maintenance. I can't tell you how many customers I've had that I'll talk to and hear back from them 6 months later, and they'll say, man, I should have implemented this back when I first talked to you. We've had XYZ fail. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off fixing stuff ever since. AssetWatch has perfected the delivery. I mean, I saw the poll earlier. A lot of people are in different stages of, do we feel like we're ready to move into predictive maintenance? AssetWatch has really removed a lot of that lift for you. Like I mentioned, we've streamlined it. The barrier of entry has pretty much been eliminated. We do a 30-day trial for $199, so there's really zero upfront cost. Also for installation of hardware, that's all covered. So you obtain a real cost savings and ROI before you even pay for your first invoice. So the time to get started is minimal. We literally have, after our first engagement, we have one call with someone like Rob, who's on the condition monitoring engineer team, where we just discuss your assets, determine how many sensor locations that you're going to have. You have a quote based right off of that call. And then within a couple of weeks, we can be out there. It's a 1-day install, and you're literally receiving maintenance recommendations in that first week, telling you you've got bearings going out, you need lubrication added, you've got coupling issues, fan belt issues, whatever it may be. You're getting those hand-delivered maintenance recommendation, and you really don't have to do anything other than point to us to tell us where to install it.
Rob, what about you?
I think the biggest key takeaway here is we are stitching your guys' team. If I've been at a funeral off work and answer the phone for a customer, there's over 30 of us analysts on staff that if I'm not here to take care of your assets, if you call me, I will call somebody and have them do it for me. We're always available.
Garrett, what about you?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice was just to be open-minded. I've seen skeptics turn into believers overnight. You know, we find something that they that came totally out of left field for them. So I'd say, you know, just be open-minded. You know, like I said, utilize the software. Change can be hard, but it can also be incredibly rewarding if you embrace it.
That's awesome. Thanks, you guys. So let's get some questions from the chat. The first we have is, how do you explain predictive maintenance to someone who thinks it's just about sensors and dashboards?
Yeah, I could take that one. So with predictive maintenance, you really are shifting from doing things as you've always done them, whether it be run to failure or preventative, to truly making a data-backed decision. So again, instead of making a decision on how you always done it, you can really feel the pain from both under maintaining an asset, which is maybe a little bit more obvious to everyone when you run them to failure, but also about over maintaining assets. So when you're over maintaining, not only are you wasting time by doing too frequent of PMs, but you could also be introducing issues to the assets when you're doing that, not to mention the safety concerns and having to shut down your production in order to do so. So the idea around predictive maintenance is let the data tell you exactly when that equipment needs attention, and plan for it so that you have the least amount of interruptions and impact to your operations as possible.
Thanks, Justin. The next question is, what kind of resistance do you see from finance or leadership when you're suggesting a solution that's OpEx versus CapEx?
Yeah, so I can take that one as well. And I'll say that resistance and pushback is becoming less and less. So in selling software 10 years ago, finance and operations almost exclusively wanted to buy and own everything. Over the last 10 years, that has completely shifted on its head to where you really, if you go into the IT department, you don't see almost anything that's bought from a capital standpoint. It's all done as software as a service. If you look at your Microsoft, that's going to be done as a subscription. More than likely, if you have SCADA systems in your plant, that's being bought via subscription as well. People aren't even, even the data is being stored on cloud servers so that there's less IT infrastructure for the groups to maintain as well. So the same thing's happening over on the OT side now. You guys don't, I don't think the IT and the financial organizations want you guys to own the sensors, the hubs, the servers. These are all kind of upfront cost, and there's also unknown surprises to the organization, right? Whenever these things get damaged, when they go obsolete, that's going to be another, 6-figure hit in 18 months from now that really isn't on their radar. So the move to an OpEx model where someone like AssetWatch comes in and owns the equipment, and we're essentially just doing software as a service for you. There is no maintenance cost. There is no warranty cost when these things need to be replaced, when the batteries get low. We take that all off of your hands. So it also allows for, because we're not charging anything up front, the ROI is very, very quick. So you're getting an ROI in some instances in a matter of weeks before you even pay your first invoice. You have a $30,000 save and things like that. So the shift is happening. It's basically already happened, and most people are preferring these OpEx type of programs today.
Thanks, Justin. As maintenance and reliability continues to evolve, what role do you see AssetWatch playing in shaping smarter, data-driven strategies for the industry?
I would say through our AI, it would be that's the role we're going to play, right? Is we develop our AI to be smarter and data driven, and we're always here on the back end. It's just not just AI sending out alerts. We're in the back end making sure those alerts are accurate and writing prescriptive recommendations towards them.
Thanks, Rob. What's a myth about predictive maintenance you wish would go away?
I'd say going back to, kind of what I touched on earlier in the presentation is this myth that it's expensive and that it's a big lift up front. In addition to answering the question earlier about OPEX versus CAPEX, from a cost standpoint, we aren't really requiring any money up front. We're going to come out there and install it all at no charge and not requiring you to purchase these sensors either. So the time to value is very quick. We're seeing customers save $30,000, $60,000, $150,000 saves within the first week or first month. So honestly, it's to me, it's expensive to not be doing predictive maintenance when you look at what you're missing out on. And then, just going back to people thinking that predictive maintenance is such a lift, and that's really coming from where it used to be 10 years ago, where you're buying all of this equipment and installing it and hardwiring it. The technology has improved so much from a wireless standpoint. We use our own cellular hotspots, so we're not touching your IT network whatsoever. So you're not having to get the automation team involved and have cybersecurity reviews and things like that. We're providing that value very quickly. So it's much more simple than probably what it previously was. And so that's probably a myth that needs to go away.
Thanks, Justin. What's a practice or lesson from another industry that manufacturers should borrow for reliability?
Yeah, I think for this one, it's probably being agile. Having worked in healthcare, there's actually really a lot of similarities between healthcare and reliability when you think about, how reliability is essentially the health of the facility. So being agile and being able to, take in new information and be able to adjust to those things quickly to provide better outcomes, I think is a practice that would help a lot.
That's great, Garrett. Rob, a question for you is, how do you balance the need for quick results with long-term reliability goals?
I don't know that they're separate, right? Because the way, like I said before, the AI generates and bubbles things to the top. Those are going to be your quick results, in long term, that's going to give us our ROI to justify the program.
That's great. And what pitfalls have you guys seen when teams skip that criticality steps that you talked about today and try to just monitor everything at once?
It's too expensive. There's other options we have that come into play. Like we have a collect option that's a route-based option that doesn't have the. I don't want to talk numbers here, but it's not as expensive as doing a continuous monitoring system. That is a better option for those B and C critical assets.
And that's the importance of the criticality, right?
Absolutely.
I think we have time for one more question. What's one cultural factor inside a plant that makes scaling much easier or even much harder?
Yeah, I could take this one. I kind of said it earlier in an answer, but I'll expand on it here. Being open-minded. So I've seen programs get killed because people at certain levels aren't open-minded about it. And I've seen stuff take off because the company was incredibly open-minded about it. So I had one customer where the junior person that we were working with was all about technology, thought it was going to be great. We were able to get some early wins with him. And then the other guy, his boss, wasn't super receptive to it, especially some of the like the ROI stuff. So when we start off in the software, we start with the default ROI number, which is built based off of the average of what our entire customer base has entered in real world ROI. And pardon my French, but he told me to get this shit off my dashboard because he's never let anything run to failure and he wasn't going to start now. And so he wasn't even willing to work with us to really start to talk about ROI or capture those. And so the program didn't really go much anywhere from there because we weren't able to use him as a story to help, expand, into other areas. So I would say be open-minded, be, ready to have conversations. Ultimately, like we want to partner with the customer to make sure that they're receiving good outcomes on their assets and that they're saving their company's money.
One more quick question we're going to try to squeeze in. What resources or training do you offer to help maintenance planners or supervisors understand the charts and jargon presented in the reports? most need more than just a scary spike to get PO's approval?
Yeah, I could probably start with that. I think Rob's gonna have a lot to add into there. I will say that it's much more than just a scary spike that you kind of see a notification on. It's a collaborative conversation between your condition monitoring engine and yourself. So these CMEs, sorry, Rob, to call you a nerd, but they get nerdy with this data and they love talking about it. They love diving into it. And so you're going to have regular scheduled data reviews with your analyst. You also have complete access to call them up at any point in time with any questions, but they're going to love diving into that full spectrum data, show you why they're calling out what they're calling out, and also talk about the severity of it, right? We might see some things trending in the wrong directions, but the amplitudes aren't really that high. We're not calling out you guys immediately go out there and replace something. But they love working with you guys who are inquisitive and looking to learn more about why the data is telling what it's telling you. So it is a collaborative environment where they're going to kind of talk you through what they're seeing.
So I'll add to that also. You almost never get just a scary spike from our system. We do have what's called anomaly emails. So if it's off hours, everybody has to sleep. So the AI is always watching. And if it meets certain criteria, it'll shoot you an email with the trend saying that needs to be looked at right now. They don't happen all the time, but they are very important. But like Justin said, we have these data review calls. I've never told a customer I wouldn't get on there and explain stuff to them. And we don't really have a reporting system like a traditional reliability program where somebody comes and collects your data and every 30 days and sends you a report. It's more of a live text stream, right? So each equipment has its own text thread available for it. You can dive into the data yourself, and it uses all the same tools I use as an analyst to justify what's going on. But it's not just, hey, it's trending up, you guys should do something about it. It's more prescriptive than that. I see an outer race defect on the third stage of the gearbox. Can we do an oil sample for that? And we'll get a clear idea without shutting equipment down. We always try to do the cheap, easy first. Let's do an oil sample. It's pretty cheap, and you don't have to shut anything down to look at it.
And specifically to the point in the chat about to get a PO approved, we've worked with customers at the end of the trial and gotten on a call with our main POC and put together a slide deck of some of the most important recommendations that we had. And even without a win, we've been able to take those observations and kind of show the charts a good detailed observation and why this is important and like what the impact would be if this hadn't been caught. And we, worked with our POCs so that way they can have something tangible to take to finance to go get approval for that PO.
Awesome. Great answers, guys. That is our time for today. Thanks, Rob, Garrett, and Justin for joining us and sharing all of your insights. And thanks to everybody that's here for joining us on the webinar. I hope today's discussion gave you a clearer picture of how connecting maintenance to the bigger goals of operations and sustainability can create real and measurable impact. The journey doesn't stop with monitoring. It's about empowering your team, strengthening your collaboration, and celebrating your wins across every level of your organization. If you're ready to get started, visit us at AssetWatch.com. We hope to see you on the next webinar. Inks International and MaintainX will be joining us on November 4th to talk about how they've turned predictive insights into action. Register to join us at the link in the chat. Thanks again, everybody.